back. Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, dude? Good to see you. What do you mean I didn't have any water? I do. There we go. Let's get things set up so I can monitor myself from afar. Oh yeah, what a weekend. Hey, Adi, good to see you this morning. How's it going? Lumos, how's it going? We are covering some game news today. Hope you're doing good. Just trying to pull all of the chats together. I go sleep, notification game, like I said hello to a friend. Nice, dude. Hey, I appreciate it. Definitely don't stay up on my account. How's my day? Just getting started, dude. Just getting started. Okay. Well, we should be good to go. I feel like. Good to see everybody here. Appreciate you. How is everybody doing this morning? Going to bed. Have a nice day. God bless. Hey, you too, man. I'm off today. No, I am working today. I am working today. Unfortunately, are you off today? What's fun is my wife has the whole week off. Like, just, hey, President's Week, you know, just it's the whole week off. Negative, dude. I know us normies got to work today. Wow. Thanks, Audie. You have a good one. Hey, Nero, good to see you. How's it going? Thanks for the likes. All right, well, we got game news this morning, but first, let's check in. How's everybody doing? Yeah, I didn't make a stream schedule this week. I didn't do anything I needed to do. I didn't even stream last night. I don't know if anybody noticed. I fell asleep on the couch and then went to bed. We just had some family time after church yesterday, and it was fun, and it took up the afternoon, and it was great, and no regrets. But how did everybody's weekend go? We had a good one here. Didn't do a whole lot. We had Valentine's Day, Saturday. Did some church things, then we had church Sunday, and then here we are now. You know, it was a pretty chill weekend. We do have game news today. I have a handful of articles to cover. Nothing major happened over the weekend that we didn't already cover on like Friday. We might revisit some stuff if anybody's interested, or if anybody has anything they have noticed that they want my opinion on. Feel free to share in chat. But let's jump let's shift into news mode. Good, decided to start playing Minecraft lately. Nice. Minecraft is always a good choice, especially if you don't know what else to play. Like, you can jump into Minecraft and be entertained for a bit. It's a seasonal game for me. I'll start playing it for a bit and then get into it for a few weeks, and then it's like, okay, I've had my fill for now, and I move on to something else. A good break from you. I haven't touched Unite in a while. I've gotten real annoyed with service games making me want to play, or treating me like I'm missing out. You know, the FOMO angle of service games. A Transformer sound system effect for news mode. Yeah, we should have something, maybe like a breaking news as we turn it on and off. The fish from SpongeBob. Breaking news! That'd be great. Well, at least everything seems to be functional now. If you guys could do me a favor, whatever platform you're watching on, stay there, like the stream, hit the buttons. But if you could jump over to the YouTube stream and like the full screen stream. It's the one without the shorts icon on it. They have the same thumbnail, just slightly different. If you guys could like that, that would be a huge help to me today. If you want to watch on YouTube, that would also be awesome. But don't leave where you're at. Stay where you are. There's lots. It's all the same stream. I should use that voice more. Oh God, no. I would be strained by the end of the stream. I wouldn't be able to speak. All right. Well, let's jump into our first story while we're hanging out here. Hey, hitting that like button. Thank you so much. I'm dropping that chat. We're gonna go ad free on VGC. I should start paying for these subscriptions, I guess, at some point. Let's talk about our first story though. Final Fantasy VII Remake director is talking about the multi-platform release of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 and why it won't be a bad experience to do the multi-platform release all at once. You know, Final Fantasy has generally, well, it hasn't always launched multi-platform. Final Fantasy 15 launched multi-platform, and the Windows version was delayed, but I think that ended up being like the best way to play the game. Here they're saying this PC is considered the lead platform, and even the PS5 Pro version is optimized. Let's jump into the article a little bit and see what they're talking about here. Director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy has explained in detail why making the third chapter a multi-platform release won't result in a compromise in quality. In an interview with Automaton, director Naoki Hamaguchi was asked his opinion on certain players suggesting that the decision to develop Part 3 with Xbox Series S and Switch 2 in mind, rather than developing primarily for Sony's consoles and optimizing at a later date, could mean the overall game may be compromised to run better on those systems. Hamaguchi replied that the decision to go multi-platform with the third game will not in any way lower the quality of the third installment, adding, "Our development structure simply doesn't work that way to begin with. I suppose I'll just have to keep saying it." That's the thing people don't understand. You know, like when you build a game, you have to optimize per platform anyway, but you can hit, because they're okay, so all the consoles now except the Switch, or the Switch 2, are using AMD hardware for CPU and GPU logic, right? Now, CPU logic is pretty agnostic, but there's still, like, if you're going for, like, down to the metal optimizations, you got to know how the CPU works. But the GPU side of it, I mean, AMD's libraries are shared between the Xbox and the PlayStation with like, notwithstanding their own customizations. Like, those are things to work with. However, the concern that developing for the lower tier will affect the larger tier is a weird misconception that has been a concern since Microsoft did the 2-tier system approach with the Series S and X, saying the Series S is holding back the Series X, when in reality, no one's just buying Xboxes. It wasn't the Series S holding back development at all, because we've seen fantastic games launch on there, and Final Fantasy VII Remake being able to run on the Series S is a cool accomplishment, you know? It's only a 6-year-old system, should be delayed. Oh, talking about the PS6. Yeah, we'll get there. We got lots to say about the PS6. It's our headline topic. We'll get to the article and talk about it. But Final Fantasy VII, let's see, when it was put to him that some players would consider this marketing talk and that developers would never speak negatively about their game before release, Hamaguchi said he would like to take this opportunity to explain in detail why there's no need for concern. Hamaguchi went on to explain the development process in detail in terms of CPU, GPU, RAM, and storage media, noting that the Switch 2 version is a game key card. He explained there was no need to shrink data just to fit on a slower cartridge. As for RAM, the Switch 2's ample memory means there's little concern there, he said. The Xbox Series S does have its limits, but we already optimized for each platform individually to the absolute limit, so memory constraints on one platform don't impose restrictions on others. In terms of CPU, Hamaguchi explained that the team's philosophy is that if a game runs at 30 FPS on Switch 2 or Xbox Series S, it should be able to hit 60 FPS on a higher-end platform. In other words, we won't design the game to fully saturate a high-end CPU at 30 FPS. Instead, on hardware that lends additional CPU headroom, we scale density elements, like increasing the number of NPCs in towns. As a result, towns feel more alive on higher-spec hardware, while lower-spec systems may display fewer NPCs. So even when factoring Switch 2 or Series S support, CPU-related bottlenecks are unlikely. Finally, with regards to GPU, Hamaguchi explained, as our fundamental principle, we do not design assets to meet the lowest baseline. Instead, we create them for high-end environments first. Anybody in the software world or the 3D art world would understand this, like, immediately. But we create them for high-end environments first. The team therefore develops with a high-spec PC as its lead platform and proceeds to scale the game down accordingly until it hits the lowest specifications. According to Hamaguchi, PS5 and even PS5 Pro are categorized as mid-range platforms by the studio, saying compared to high-end PCs, texture sizes may differ by roughly 1.5 to 2 times, mesh loading by 1.5 to 2 times, and polygon counts by more than 3 times. That's how big the difference can be. Conversely, among currently supported systems, the one adjusted toward lower specifications is the Steam Deck, since it operates at less than half the PS5's baseline. Therefore, I'd like to once again say that supporting multiple platforms does not impact overall quality. So, it's kind of a, armchair developers want to have a say in how this works. And it's weird because it's constant that we see these lower spec tiers of systems being blamed for why, like, games look bad. And I was like, that's not it. It's optimization, and that happens per platform. You can't optimize for the Series S, right? And then go, oh, well, we only optimized on the Series S because the PS5 handled it just fine. It's like, no, you have to optimize per platform. And any game developer that's not optimizing at the platform level is just risking a poor quality experience on any of them. If they pick just one platform to optimize for, it's like, okay, well, it worked well there, but it doesn't work well on anything else we've released on. Like, that doesn't happen. If that does happen, that's dumb. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird conversation to be having in 2026 when multi-tier GPUs, like, have been a thing for generations now, and we see it working in real time there. You can turn the graphic settings up or down and match, a current console from that same generation of GPU and see kind of what the performance would look like. Like, that's not a difficult thing to do, and the game is going to run roughly the same under those same restrictions, right? Like, it's not, why is that news to people? You know, I just don't get it. I don't get why it's like looking at a Volkswagen like Beetle and saying, hey, that the Volkswagen bus that they make, the multi-passenger vehicle, it's not going to work well because that Beetle exists and only carries 2 people. The bus can't possibly carry more than 2 people. You put more seats on it and built it to carry people, but it can't possibly do that because the Beetle only carries 2 people. You know, and it's like that. It's that kind of thinking. It's like, why is that accepted in the gaming space? It makes no sense. Anyhow, let's move on. All right, we got Metal Gear Solid Snake joins the roster of Rainbow Six Siege, finally making a crossover with Sam Fisher real. We knew this was coming, but I think there was some art that was kind of cool. I just thought it was neat. After the Metal Gear Solid stuff from the State of Play last week, Siege getting Solid Snake voiced by David Hayter is really sweet. And just to think that, you know, Sam Fisher and Solid Snake are going to fight side by side or against each other, depending on, you know, the match you're in. I just thought it was kind of neat. Apparently they're doing like an in-game mode, working together. You know, the reveal trailer is self-explanatory. Sam Fisher and Solid Snake in the same game, working together. Time travel back to the mid-2000s with this trailer, and you blow the gaming industry's collective mind. The Fortnitification of every franchise big enough is real, but if that's the future of entertainment, we might as well enjoy the team-ups that always were destined to happen. So, yeah, I thought it was neat. You know, I didn't have much to say. I just thought it was cool. Wanted to point it out. Good event. All right, people are asking this question, and I have a couple thoughts about it. But will Sony Spider-Man games come to Xbox? Quote, not likely, according to Insomniac. So, could an Xbox version of Insomniac Spider-Man games eventually be released, given parent company Sony's recent softening on multi-platform, not just on PC, but with the likes of Helldivers 2 and Marathon coming to Microsoft's console? Based on a comment from Insomniac itself, Xbox owners shouldn't hold their breath. A fan replied to a tweet from Insomniac celebrating Valentine's Day to ask about the possibility of Spider-Man swinging onto Xbox, and the developer's response was pretty clear, not likely. Now, you might say that's obvious, but as the replies have pointed out, once upon a time, Insomniac rolled out Marvel Spider-Man ever coming to PC, and it ended up making the jump from PlayStation exclusivity to personal computers. So, this was in 2017, the PS4 era. But regarding Spider-Man, it will never appear on Xbox or PC. It's a permanent PS4 exclusive published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. And we know that's not the case with Spider-Man. It's on PC. I think there's a couple of things to think about with this statement, though. At the time, this was a true statement. It wasn't coming to any other platforms, but Sony saw the value in releasing games on PC. And Spider-Man 1, I think, did fairly well on the PC side of things. So, nearly 9 years after that tweet, Sony not only publishes games on PC, but on Xbox and Nintendo Switch. Arrowhead's record-breaking Helldivers 2, for example, launched on Series X and S, complete with a Halo crossover, and Bungie's upcoming extraction shooter Marathon is coming out on Xbox as well as PC and PlayStation. The times have changed. Spider-Man, though, does feel like it would be crossing a thicker line to get to Xbox, and Insomniac's tweet suggests that to be the case. In the shorter term, Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine is due out later this year, exclusively on PlayStation 5. Meanwhile, Insomniac fans expect another Spider-Man game eventually. I'll leave it there and jump into opinionated chrono time. I think what is likely is if they can justify porting it to get sales, they will do it. But they're not going to do it if they don't think they can make a lot of money. Realistically, though, I think there's enough Xbox owners out there that would be all over this game should it hit Xbox. It could be only Series S and X optimized. It wouldn't have to run on the Xbox One at all. I don't think it would anyway, not very well. But it could be optimized for the current gen Xboxes. And if the future is accurate, you know, the things we're getting about the next Xbox, if that's all accurate, it's going to run Steam anyway. So Spider-Man will be on an Xbox. It's already on the ROG Ally X. It's like all these other things that come into play here. Insomniac might as well port it to the Series X and X while they can get people to buy it not on like Steam. You know, I don't know that there's any benefit in that, but you're gonna get a lot of people that have an Xbox that would never buy a PlayStation that would buy Spider-Man if it showed up, right? Like I don't think that's unreasonable. I just don't know that if they've run any analysis, any numbers to see what that could look like. I don't think it's there, you know, and that's okay. That's, you know. If they don't think the numbers are there, I see why they wouldn't do it. However, I think the cost of licensing is going to continue to go up for Sony and Insomniac. That, especially if they're, okay, so Wolverine comes out and it's a hit. Well, now they do a Spider-Man 3, but let's say they also do a Venom game or another X-Men title, a standalone X-Men title, like a Gambit game or something. Licensing each of those things over and over is going to keep getting more expensive if they keep doing very well, you know. And so I think Spider-Man 2 actually sold almost as much, but not quite as much as the PS4 Spider-Man did. And that's odd, right? And even if it did outsell, I think the pace of sales was much slower, and that can be attributed to various situations around the PS5 itself not being available widely. But I think at a certain point, just having the extra sales on Xbox wouldn't hurt, but they've got to offset the development costs, the porting costs. Clearly, Helldivers 2 was able to turn that game around in a year to launch on Xbox, and it wasn't, you know, a difficult task. I'm sure Microsoft would offer some first-party support to make the porting process much smoother, but I just think it would happen. I think it would happen, and I would like it to happen simply because more people should play it. So, you know, it's a fantastic series, and I think it would do very well on Xbox. But will it happen? I mean, not likely is the case right now, but times do change. I mean, they said never on PC, and look what happened there, right? All right, let's get to our cover story. I've been seeing this. I didn't really do social media stuff this weekend, but I have been seeing this making the rounds this morning. PS6 may be released as late as 2029. The ongoing shortage of memory chips has reportedly led Sony to consider delaying the PS6 release to 2028 or 2029. The shortage of memory chips is impacting the gaming industry significantly. We've already seen GPU manufacturers raise prices or even discontinue certain products. It seems the impact will reach next-gen consoles as well, as first reported by Insider Gaming and now corroborated by Bloomberg. RAM price increases will delay the next-gen console of PlayStation. PS6 could be pushed to 2029, and Switch 2 price increase being contemplated. So the report states that people familiar with the company's thinking have revealed that Sony Group has thought of pushing back the debut of its next PlayStation console to 2028 or even 2029. That's not all. People familiar with Nintendo's plans have also stated that the company is also contemplating raising the price of the Switch 2 in 2026. However, neither Sony nor Nintendo has officially commented on these plans. Say confirmed, but it was commented. When discussing the impact of memory prices on current-gen consoles, Nintendo has already stated that it will carefully evaluate Switch 2's price amid rising memory costs. Sony, on the other hand, has stated that the PS5 stocks won't be affected by memory shortages until the end of the holiday 2026 season. At the same time, PS6 and PlayStation Handheld are claimed to have impressive memory specs, so Sony seems to be in a pickle for their next-gen console. So it's like, hey, there's not enough RAM supply to even make PS5s through 2027, but we can't even mass market the PS6 in 2027, 2028. You know, I think the PS6 was slated to be released, revealed. I say released, revealed this year. Brent, good to see you in chat. How you doing? But the reveal would happen this year with a release sometime in 27, maybe early 28, depending. But now that's all up in the air. Thanks, AI. Right? But yeah, it's a weird situation for them to be in. I am not surprised by this, but it also feels like we haven't really seen the PS5 fully utilized. I mean, it only came out in what, 2020? I feel like we're jumping to a new generation so quickly, but I don't think the benefits are really going to be there. There's not going to be a graphical leap like there was from like Xbox to Xbox 360. You know, there was a significant jump in performance there. But then from 360 to Xbox One, it was better, it's a lot more capable, but it wasn't, you know, from PS3 to PS4 was a significant jump. I just don't think from PS4 to PS5 was as significant of a jump. We're just getting higher frame rates, better texture quality in games, but the visuals themselves aren't improving in a major way. You know, will the PS6 be 8K capable? I mean, maybe. They put 8K on the PS5 box, and how many 8K games or movies have you watched on your PS5? Let me know. I would love to get a real number, because as far as I know, that's 0. I don't even know of any 8K movies that you could get right now, right? Like, that's, I don't know, it's kind of odd. But anyway, I just think that, you know, there's still a lot of life left in the PS5 consoles, especially with the Pro being out. Like, what did that add? I'd have to look it on paper, because I've been considering picking up a PS5 Pro as a second PlayStation for our household, but now it seems like I might as well, since we have several years before the next main console would come out. You know, I think that's the thing to look at it. If you've been on the fence, maybe like, I might as well wait for the next PlayStation because I waited so long to get a PS5. Maybe just go ahead and get that PS5, especially before the end of this year, because it seems like they're gonna be harder to get next year. You know, and then you really gotta hope that like service and repair shops will still be able to support your system. So if they can't even manufacture it, can they replace components? Obviously, RAM chips aren't going to be something they like resolder. They would just put a new motherboard in there. But if they can't even get that, you know, what are they going to do? And that's where like it starts to get concerning for the consumer electronic space at large, not just the PlayStation or Xbox or even just home console space. But if you need a main board replacement because a RAM chip went out or a CPU went out in something, what do you do? You know, if it's all being gobbled up by AI, does your smart fridge just not work anymore? And that's where I think is a big concern. I don't know if anybody else thinks that way, but this kind of put me in the waiting camp for the PS6, waiting much longer, and going ahead and leaning more into the PS5 and PC ecosystem. Might not be a bad idea. If you were considering building a PC, now would be a good time to just buy a console and ride it out. If you don't have any other way to play games, PC might be the thing. But with this getting worse, it seems every month we get a worse report, and this is probably the worst one. Yeah, the fact that they just kind of snuck in that holiday supply for the existing consoles will be running out, and the Switch 2 is getting more expensive, more than likely. Yeah, I would say tax return season is here. If you got a good tax return and you were planning on buying a console, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. That's not financial advice. It's just, it looks like it's all going to get more expensive, and that's crazy to me. Like, I don't ever remember seeing prices go up during a console generation like they have in this one. But my gosh, how crazy are things now, right? Like, just the AI industry has upended big tech in general. And now we're at a place where it's like, oh yeah, all that stuff you like, it was already expensive, but now it's getting more expensive. Huge disappointment all around. Huge disappointment all around. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not happy. I'm not happy to read this news. I don't think it's a big deal that the console itself is delayed, though. I still think there's a lot of life left in the PS5. I think, that devs have barely pushed that hardware to its limits. Maybe we could get back to devs like going all in on optimization in a way that we haven't seen in a long time in the games industry, and actually squeeze every possible frame out of the hardware that they possibly could. It'd be really interesting. I don't know if we can do those bare metal optimizations like devs had to back in the cartridge days on the like Genesis and Super Nintendo. I think there's so many layers now to these consoles and engines and just the way things work. Getting down to that like hardware coding level would take so much time, but maybe it's necessary. I don't know. It'd just be cool to see. It'd be cool to see if it was possible and what developers could do with it. And yeah, it would take years, which game development already takes years. So maybe it's not a bad thing. But anyway, so yeah, let's move on. We have a couple stories left. Some sad news. Legendary Sega console designer Hideki Sato, the man behind everything from the Master System to Dreamcast, has passed away. Sato worked at the company for almost 4 decades. I like this. It's one sentence and then an ad. Hideki Sato, the man behind practically every Sega console, has sadly died. As reported by VGC and gaming history zine Beep 21, the iconic console designer and veteran Sega boss was in his late 70s when he tragically passed on February 13, 2026. Sato's illustrious career in games began in 1971 when he joined Sega, eventually leading the company's research and development arm before becoming Sega's president for a brief stint in the 2000s. He's perhaps best known for leading the engineering teams behind nearly every major Sega console during its time as a major player in the console wars, including 1983's SG-1000, 85's Master System, 89's Mega Drive / Sega Genesis, 1994 Saturn, and 1999's Dreamcast. Sega really was a product of the 90s. Like, they were such a cool company in the 90s, and now they're just not as relevant. Sega hardware was my favorite as a kid. Like, I was a Sega kid through and through. Even though the support and the cost and everything about Sega, a lot of people would tell you it was the worst platform or the lesser of the two between Sega and Nintendo. And then when Sony showed up and made everyone look foolish, that was a whole different story. But I always preferred the Sega hardware. So it's kind of sad to see. I mean, it's, time goes on, comes for us all. And people get old. But I'm thankful for all the memories and all the hardware that Mr. Sato gave me as a kid. Like, not personally, just the stuff he designed that my family bought and we got to experience was because of him. And so him and his teams. And so that's super cool to be able to honor and say thanks. Like, nice. We should all be thankful for the things we had as a kid. But yeah, I don't know. My favorite Sega system was probably the Saturn or the Dreamcast. The Genesis is a really good one. But I think the Dreamcast might take it for me. It did so much. It was a really good piece of hardware. I wish they should have gone the DVD route with it instead of the CDs. I think it would have done a lot better sales wise if it was also a DVD player. It would have gotten a lot more expensive, but I think it would have performed much better. Because that's the reason the PS2 was popular and sold so many. It was a DVD player. DVD players were expensive. If they could have made a more cost-effective DVD player, it would have been awesome. Anyway, we'll move on. All right, I thought this was interesting. Warner Brothers reportedly reopening talks with Paramount, despite having already agreed to sell to Netflix. I haven't read this article, and I don't know if we should. It's IGN, so grain of salt time. Just kidding. They're not all bad. Warner Brothers is reportedly considering reopening talks with Paramount despite having already agreed to sell to Netflix. Bloomberg reported that members of Warner Brothers' board are debating whether to talk to Paramount again after the company amended its offer, which would be a superior deal to that already set in stone by Netflix. However, Bloomberg made it clear no decision has been made, and Warner Brothers may end up sticking with Netflix. Paramount's latest offer would give shareholders extra cash for each quarter the deal fails to close after this year, about $650 million, and would agree to cover the $2.8 billion breakup fee Warner Brothers would owe Netflix if it walked away. However, it did not raise the $30 per share offer, valuing the deal at $108.4 billion, including debt. That's a lot. That's a lot. This comes just 2 months after Warner Brothers told its shareholders they should reject Paramount's takeover bid for the company, urging them to approve the Netflix deal instead. At the time, Warner Brothers hit out at Paramount, accusing it of consistently misleading its shareholders by saying its bid had a full backstop from the Ellison family. It does not and never has. Warner Brothers insisted. Netflix, as you'd expect, welcomed the decision. The Warner Brothers Discovery Board reinforced that Netflix's merger agreement is superior and that our acquisition is in the best interest of stockholders, said Ted Sarandos, Netflix co-CEO. Netflix's proposal has sparked a tough response from some members of Congress, and it is expected to face significant scrutiny under antitrust laws. Meanwhile, at least one HBO Max subscriber has already sued Netflix, claiming the deal threatens to reduce competition in the U.S. subscription video on demand market. Yeah, I'm not reading the rest of this. It's just crazy that they're like, hey, maybe we should have considered Paramount's deal. You know, they have made it better, so maybe that's good. Wild to think about, though. All right, I wouldn't normally talk about Logan Paul, but I figure this might be interesting enough for you guys. Logan Paul's Pikachu illustrated Pokemon card just sold for $16.49 million at an auction. Probably the most expensive card ever. So Logan Paul's one-of-one PSA 10 Pikachu illustrator card, widely considered the holy grail of Pokemon collecting, has officially sold for a total of $16,492,000 at Golden Auctions. The auction closed early Monday morning after 41 days of bidding, with the vast majority of bids coming in during an extended bidding period that took place after the auction ended. The final hammer price came to $13.3 million plus 24% buyer's premium, making the final price more than triple what Paul paid for it. Paul purchased the card for $5.275 million in July 21, which at the time set a Guinness World Record for the most expensive Pokemon card ever sold. He later paid $70,000 for a custom case and necklace to permanently house the card, which he then went on to wear as part of his WrestleMania 38 costume. Bidding opened January 5th for the card, necklace and case included. After the start date was moved up from January 12th due to overwhelming global interest, Golden said in a press release at the time, "This is the biggest Pokemon and trading card game auction ever held, and the unbelievable amount of interest we've already received led us to open early," said Ken Golden, founder and CEO of Golden. Paul himself called it the most coveted card in the world, adding that he plans to hand deliver the card to whoever wins the auction. So that's crazy, right? Just $16.5 million for a Pokemon card. Y'all don't hate the collecting industry enough, because this is a symptom of how goofy it is, right? It's just absurd that would sell for that much, and it's just a cardboard card with printed art on it. I was at Target yesterday and walking around, and there were 0 Pokemon cards in the store. Not one booster pack or box or anything on the shelf. There were other games, you know, plenty of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I saw some Lorcana stuff, which is kind of surprising. Zero Pokemon stuff, because you've got people chasing stuff like this, and it's like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing out here? It's all cardboard. Chill. Let people enjoy the game. Now you just play it digitally, and nobody can steal your booster packs from you while you're trying to buy stuff. Moving on, PlayStation Vita was first released 14 years ago today. Wild to think about because it feels much older than that. I had a Vita for a couple of months. I didn't mind it. It was a cool system. I only had a couple of games on it. I would have rather have picked up the Vita TV. Handheld gaming just doesn't hit the same for me anymore. Even with the Switch 2, I just leave mine docked like most of the time. But weird to think, 14 years ago, we had a PlayStation Vita. Remote play was pretty cool on it. It was a cool feature to have. All right, moving on. I think it's the last thing I got. It's a chat. A question for you: what is the best water type starter Pokemon in your opinion? And here's our water starters for reference. The OG nostalgic part of me wants to pick Blastoise, but Feraligatr is also pretty sweet. But I also really like Greninja, and I think Inteleon's cool. Samurott is also a cool one. I like almost all the water starters. I did not like the water starter for Scarlet and Violet. His final form is just wonky and weird looking. Was not a fan of the Flamenco one. For Alligator, Blastoise, and Napoleon, good picks. Good picks. I can get behind those. See, I think I would pick for Alligator, Blastoise, and Greninja. And I don't even have that much attachment to like X and Y. I just think they're pretty cool. I like Samurott though. I wish Samurott didn't evolve from being like a stand-up bipedal otter to a four-legged beast. You know, like it just feels he's a step backwards. Because even like Mudkip to Swampert, like he stands up. He goes from 4 legs to 2 legs. You know, and Empoleon just gets cooler as it evolves. But I do like Empoleon. It's a good design. The Diamond Pearl generation doesn't hold as much nostalgia for me as it does for a lot of other people. I do like a lot of Pokemon from that gen. It does feel like we have an excessive focus on that generation. When I think Black and White was a better generation than the Diamond Pearl one. Just overall. Oh man. Alright, well I think that does it for our game news. I'll leave this up while we're figuring out what we're doing. How long have we been live? 45 minutes? Yeah, it tracks. 45-minute show usually is what I have time for. If I would start on time, we might could go a little longer. We usually try to hit an hour. I was dragging this morning. We actually got up and went to the gym, and I got dressed and I was sitting here pulling articles and getting ready, and I nodded off in my chair. I don't know why. I got plenty of sleep last night. I think I'm tired, y'all. Just overall, lots of tired. Anywho. All right. Well, that does it. Nice. Dude, it was good. Oh my gosh. Remind me, you like Inteleon in the show? Inteleon in the show was good. Inteleon in the show was good. I appreciate you guys watching on YouTube. I really want to hit that watch time goal this year. And it's getting harder and harder to do. We're losing watch time every week. It's because we had a massive influx and we got really close to 3,000 last year, and we're now catching up on that point, and I don't know what to do. There's some reinventing that needs to go on, I suppose. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna turn news mode off. Hopefully, it actually disables. We'll just hang out and just chatting. Y'all What else do we have? Does anything else happen over the weekend in gaming? Not really. Not that I know of. You know, I'm kind of sitting here looking at headlines and stuff. Not seeing a whole lot. Nintendo hypes classics as virtual games launched on Switch Online. Well, that's cool. I'm thinking Pokemon Day. I'm hoping they announce the Pokemon collection for Switch Online. Game Boy and GBA. You know, just put Gen 1 through 3 on there. Or put more spin-off games. You know, whatever you want to do. But we'll see. We'll see. There's really just nothing else going on. Just a lot of disappointment and stuff shutting down. Anybody check out the new Mario Tennis? I thought about picking it up. It looks good. It's being rated really well. Oh man. Crimson Desert is apparently charging a premium and people aren't happy about that. When's that I need to find out when that Marathon Server Slam is. We're gonna plan some streams around it. Alright, let me put this question to chat. You guys can answer however you see fit. It's not like a poll or anything. Would you pick up a PS5 Pro with the news that PlayStation shortages are going to affect hardware through the rest of the year? Would you pick one up sooner rather than later? Or a PlayStation 5 at all? Like, would you pick up a new console right now if you were looking to upgrade or add a console to your setup? If I got a new TV, you would upgrade to a Pro? Like, no? That's weird, bro. Cheese on ice pops? That sounds awful. I'm just kind of scrolling through these latest headlines since the show started, see if there's anything we missed. You know, the last few times I've ended the game news, I found something I wanted to talk about. That was like, oh, this would be great. So I'm just kind of double checking before we call it a day. You see TV 60 FPS, so it makes sense so I get 120 hertz. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, if I had a 120 hertz TV, it might be more worthwhile. I mean, some games run at 120 hertz on the PS5, if I'm not mistaken. The base PS5. Nintendo Life doesn't have anything too good. There's a lot of questions they're asking their readers. Insider Gaming didn't have any major updates. Let's see. See, I've got a couple of monitors that do 120 or more hertz. One does 165, and the other one does I think 144. And then my ultra wide does 85 hertz, 95 hertz. It's weird. I lock it to 60 because what's the point? Like, I don't think I would notice 95 hertz. Ooh, okay, let's talk about this one. Found another article we can chat about real quick. Nintendo issues DMCA takedown on more Switch emulators, but at least one is fighting back. The notice is targeting GitHub pages of at least 13 different Switch emulators. Stop hosting your emulation repositories on GitHub. Back in May 24, the company took down more than 8,500 clones of Switch emulator Yuzu by issuing a single DMCA notice to GitHub, which led the site removing 8,535 repositories containing versions of the emulator. Now, as initially noted by Reddit user Devile, Nintendo submitted another DMCA notice to GitHub requesting it take down the repositories still containing Yuzu, as well as those containing at least 12 other Switch emulators. The reported repositories offer, link to, or otherwise provide access to Nintendo Switch emulators, including but not limited to Citron, Eden, Kinji NX, Mellow NX, Pine, Pomelo, Ryubing, Ryujinx, Skyline, Sudachi, Sumi, Suyu, and Suyu is the funny one, and Yuzu. The DMCA notice reads, Nintendo Switch emulators are primarily designed to play Nintendo Switch games. Specifically, these Nintendo Switch emulators illegally circumvent Nintendo's technological prevention measures and run illegal copies of Switch games. Nintendo Switch games are encrypted using proprietary cryptographic keys, which protect against unauthorized access to and copying of the copyrighted games. During operation, these emulators necessarily use unauthorized copies of these cryptographic keys to decrypt unauthorized copies of Nintendo Switch games, or ROMs, at or immediately before runtime without Nintendo's authorization. Thus, they are primarily designed to unlawfully circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under the DMCA. And distribution of these emulators constitutes unlawful trafficking in technology that is primarily designed or produced for the purpose of circumventing a technological measure that effectively controls access to copyrighted works. My gosh, legal speak is exhausting. While some of the repositories appear to have been removed, and the websites for emulators Citron and Mellow NX appear to have shut down, other emulators such as Eden appear to be resisting the takedown. As reported by WCCF Tech, one of the project managers behind Eden informed its users of the takedown on its Discord page, saying, "At the time, we're unsure what exactly will happen to that repository or when anything will happen, but most likely scenario is that it's removed and you won't be able to access our stable releases on GitHub anymore." They then defiantly added, "Our source code is unaffected as it isn't hosted on GitHub. The only thing targeted was our GitHub releases page, not the source code, not our actions workflow, nothing on our self-hosted Git instance, not even our development, PR, master, nightly builds. The source code is always available at blank, and releases are also mirrored at blank. Our development will continue as always." I bet these links are not links. Nope. Because it's just a quote in an article. In a statement to WCCF Tech, Eden founder Camille LeVay said the aim was to keep the emulator going despite Nintendo's DMCA takedowns on GitHub, claiming that it was designed for people who own games and want to get more out of them, despite the fact that it mainly appears to be used for piracy. Effectively, as founder of Eden, I can say that we want to keep continuing the work in the preservation of video games, allowing game owners to benefit from this beyond their original hardware. Since this is a community-driven project, we always look to provide the best result possible for all, yet we're never sure of what the future can bring, so we're always trying to ask the community to help us in any way they can, so Eden can still be alive for years to come. I don't know, Nintendo's aggression towards emulation and their reasoning for it being tighter and tighter, like, I get it, like, decrypting those game keys is probably a big issue. Running the emulation software is probably a thing that Nintendo themselves doesn't like, but I don't think there's anything they can do about that. Like, it is what it is. It's out there. You're not gonna kill it. There's maybe some stuff you could do, but I don't know if it's outside of the legal actions they've already taken. I don't know what else they could do other than busting people's kneecaps, behind the scenes. It's just strange. Nintendo's like anti-emulator stance, but it allows people to enjoy more of their games. I think classic emulators are fine. We'll leave that alone, They just don't want people emulating the new stuff because it affects sales, because people do pirate. let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. All right, guys, that's where I'm gonna leave it then for today. It was a fun time. You guys have a good day ahead of you, I hope, and I'll be back. I don't know what we're doing. Maybe tonight I'll stream, maybe not. I'll talk to my wife and I'll find out what we might have planned. Tomorrow night I should stream. I guess I should post a stream schedule for the week. I just didn't make one. I didn't have time this weekend. But I do need to make some kind of post so you guys know what's going on. Thursday will likely not be a stream, but Friday we'll be back. Wednesday will be game news. Friday will be game news for sure. So just look forward to that. And yeah, that'll do it. You guys have a great day. If you're hanging out on Twitch, we'll find somebody to raid. But we'll go ahead and end all of the other streams. So thanks for hanging out.